Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 1, Episode 1, titled Amazing Fantasy. Of course, even the title of this episode is an Easter egg. The Easter egg, of course, is Amazing Fantasy is the first, it was the comic way back in 1962 that showed the first appearance of Spider-Man ever in Amazing Fantasy issue number 15. Now, oddly enough, when this show got pitched originally, it was called Freshman Year originally. And it was originally pitched to be a prequel to Civil War. Like, before Peter Parker met Tony Stark and fought in Berlin at the airport and all that kind of stuff, this stuff happened. And then at some point they're like, yeah, this is going to be more like a what if thing. Like, yeah, certain things going to be similar. Like, there's a lot of similarities to filling up the gaps of what has happened leading up to the events of Civil War, but with a twist. It's not Tony Stark who's in Peter Parker's apartment, it's Norman Osborn. And that's, of course, a big twist, because Norman Osborn, Green Goblin, kind of is now the big bad for Spider-Man. It's, that's a big twist. What is that like? But how is this first episode? Because the whole Norman Osborn thing, that's like the last 30 seconds of the episode. How is this first episode? I would say it's good. It's fine. It kind of feels like, hey, let's do all the typical Spider-Man stuff before we deep dive into the story. Like, there's some really neat action sequences. There's, the big car chase that I mentioned. That's halfway through the episode. That was pretty good. Anytime Spider-Man's swinging, it's pretty well put together. The animation of this is pretty spot on. I mean, clearly, it's taking iterations mainly from Peter Parker, but clearly it's taking a iteration from like the Steve Ditko, Stan Lee era, which is the OOG creative team on Spider-Man. So they're taking that art style and trying to modernize it as much as they could, and then trying to make it look like a comic, which is with all the comic grids and with the web, pow, wow, when any time Spider-Man shoots a web, you get a little quip, trying to make it such a comic book thing. And so I like the animation style of this. And yes, everybody's going to be comparing this to Spider-Verse unfairly, but I'm treating it as its own thing, and as its own thing, I like the anime style. It took me a while watching the trailers, because watching the trailers I was like, this looks cheap, I'm not digging it, but in the context of the episode, I quite dig. But yeah, this episode kind of falls into like, hey, let's just do typical Spider-Man stuff. Here's him spinning around, being a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, him being down his luck. This is the first year at high school, and he's late for class. He's interested in this girl. He has the courage to ask her, but he's like an hour or two too late because the high school jock got the boyfriend who is not your typical high school jock, which I kind of like. Kind of shows like, look, the Flash Thompson thing worked. And yes, Flash Thompson, we like Flash Thompson, the wiry and causation venom, all kind of stuff. But I'm wondering at this point, the idea of like the dumb footballer picking on the nerd, it just comes across a little bit too cliche to the point that, I mean, look, the people who are working on this thing is probably our Gen Z, or people who were in high school when the MCU was on the inception. So clearly they can say, hey, high school isn't what it is now, what it probably was. So now it's probably reflecting what high school is now versus maybe what high school was back then, when like in the 80s or something, which was, the footballer, beating the crap out of the high schooler, out of the nerd. So, in that. The only thing I wasn't crazy about was like the first, I would say 6 minutes of the episode. Before the big title sequence, because it is essentially, I get it. The concept of, okay, we're going to see Peter getting bigger by the spider. How are we going to make it different? And the concept of the spider comes from a big battle between Doctor Strange and a symbiote crab creature. I don't know what the hell what it is, but I was like, this is a little bit too much for something that's kind of quite simple, which is Peter Parker gets bitten by a radioactive spider that gives him powers. And they just try to make it this big giant thing and try to give a giant big opening sequence. I just felt it was a little bit too much. I was like, yeah, sometimes simple is the best. And I do like the idea, like, Peter gets bitten by the spider after Uncle Ben passes away. So it'll be interesting. I like that. So we are always setting the tone of things. And it's also nice to know, like, Uncle Ben gets mentioned, because that's not really a thing that happens in the MCU. They, like, kind of pretend he doesn't fucking exist, and it's kind of annoying, and that. But, yeah, I like the conversation. I thought the episode was fine. The weird thing about this show is the episode schedule, because it's 10 episodes getting switched into 4 weeks. Because we've got 2 episodes this week, then it's 3 episodes for week 1 and 2, and then 2 episodes for episode 3 for week 4. So hopefully the story picks up. Now Osborn is in the picture. Let's see how he groups together. And also, by the way, I will say this. I kind of like the mechanics of Peter's early Spider-Man suit, where, like, he has to turn this knob, like, this kind of fuse to access the webbing. Which I had to be like, that would be very heavy, dude. That, swinging around with that thing and walking around with it. But I like, they think of the mechanics of it, how it would work. How would how would it work in that kind of context? And that. I'm trying to think of anything else, but nothing really. It just feels like this episode is all about, let's see Peter Parker doing Spider-Man stuff before, and have Peter Parker doing typical Peter Parker stuff before we just hit the story running, hopefully the story running. But anyway, comment below, let me know your thoughts of episode 1.